new study has come out that finds COVID vaccines are linked to small increases in brain, heart, and blood issues. It's the largest COVID vaccine study that's been done so far. Looked at 99 million people who have been vaccinated. Now, joining us to get beyond that headline is Dr. Amesh Adalja, infectious disease specialist and senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Public Health Security. So, Dr. Adalja, it's always good to talk to you about these issues. And again, when you put up a headline, we can put it back up. That one was the Bloomberg headline: largest COVID vaccine study yet finds links to health conditions. Given this issue, how politicized it's been, and everything else, people see this and they're going to react to it. What should their takeaway be once you get beyond that? What did you think of it?
Well, this is really illustrative of what's been going on since the very beginning of the COVID-19 vaccine program, is that public health authorities, regulatory agencies have been monitoring for side effects. And we've heard about many of the side effects that they mentioned in this big study, things like myocarditis, certain clotting disorders that occurred with some of the vaccines that weren't used in the United States, like the AstraZeneca vaccine. So this should give people confidence that this is something that's being monitored. And when you look at the billions of vaccines that have been given, and the fact that these minor side effects or these side effects are so minor and pale in comparison to the benefit of the vaccine, I think that should give people reassurance that yes, vaccines do have side effects. They tend to be very mild in general. There are some serious side effects that have occurred with certain COVID vaccines. Those are being monitored and the public is being informed about them. So I think it should give people confidence if they actually look at the full context of the study. Okay, so myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle, right? Now that's been mentioned and talked about a lot, as you said, over the years. Some of these other issues have been brought up a lot as well. You say that they're relatively mild side effects, but some of this, blood clots as well, are not necessarily mild. I mean, people have died supposedly, and so some people might look at this and be scared and not want to take another vaccine. So what do you say to those people who might pull back as a result of this? It's the benefits far outweigh the risks, or? Yes, and when I use the word mild, I meant mild in comparison to the benefit of the vaccine, not necessarily those are mild side effects that have occurred with people who've had fatal blood clots, for example. So right. Mild when you look at the overall benefit of the vaccine. And what I would say is, when myocarditis is something that is usually self-limited, something that we can delimit by spacing out doses. This is something that doesn't occur in everybody. It occurs in boys and teenagers and young adolescent males, and that can be mitigated by spacing out that second dose. So that's one thing, and it's not something that usually results in severe disease with myocarditis. The other ones that you put on the screen there, Guillain-Barré syndrome and the blood clots, those were linked to the AstraZeneca vaccine. The AstraZeneca vaccine was never used in the United States. So when people bring that up, I think it's important to say that's a vaccine that was never approved or used in the U.S., even though it was funded by Operation Warp Speed. So when you look at the vaccines that were largely given in the United States, Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines and now the Novavax vaccines, they have a very good safety profile. Even if there's that myocarditis risk, the benefits outweigh those risks greatly in terms of numbers of hospitalizations prevented, and that myocarditis risk is mitigatable. But I think what the overarching point is that we're still studying these things, and there is a lot of effort meant to understand the risk-benefit ratio here. And I think this should be a reassuring study that these side effects occurred in a very minority group of people with vaccines that weren't even available in the United States, like the AstraZeneca vaccine, largely for the more serious side effects. Would there be any groups of people, though, that you would say, you don't necessarily have to get the next booster when it comes out, for example, healthy people of a certain age, or do you still recommend that most people would get it even with all of this information? When it comes to boosters, I've always been somebody that has supported targeted boosting, using boosters to prevent severe disease, hospitalization, and death, and those that have a risk for severe disease, hospitalization, and death. So I've never thought that universal booster recommendation like we have in the United States was actually warranted, not because I thought there was some side effect problem. I just didn't think it was a very effective way to use the vaccine. What we want to do is prevent severe disease with an ever-changing virus that keeps evolving to delimit the ability of the vaccine to prevent infection. But what it does do is prevent severe disease, but you have to have a risk for severe disease to get that benefit. So I think we should have used an approach that they did, for example, in England, where they're targeting that booster, the updated vaccines to high-risk individuals. And I think that's what you will see probably in the next iteration when the ACIP meets, talking about the next booster, that'll be much more targeted. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And we wanted to bring you on and like I said at the beginning, get beyond some of the headlines and explain it a little bit. So, Doctor, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
As
Thanks
always,
for having me.
Dr. Zalsher from Johns Hopkins. In a moment, we will get to that.